Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be covering Broforce, a 2D action platformer that recently came out on Steam. Though it's not a generic 2D action platformer, it very much has its own slant. I actually played a demo of this ages ago and I loved it then, so when it cropped up on Steam, I pretty much just had to try it. Suffice to say, it's earned its place on the channel. Now, at a very base level, it's a game that follows in the long tradition of shooting for a bit, then moving to the right, getting a checkpoint, and woo, you finish the level. You know, if that's what you have in your mind, that's pretty much what you're going to get. What Broforce does, though, is it banks on its aesthetic. So, who are these bros? Well, you've got John Rambro, Brohard, Bromando, Brodell Walker, the Bro in Black. You kinda get the picture. Their whole shtick is that you're essentially Team America, but populated with action movie heroes. And this permeates through the entire game, and honestly, it works fantastically. I'm sure just about everyone who has even a passing interest in action movies is going to be totally down with this. They really execute it well, and it just feels like a lot of fun from an aesthetic point of view. Now, not only in terms of the characters, you also have got an over-the-top announcer, you've got lots of little bits of detail that really sell what they're trying to do. I mean, come on, you don't get more American than blowing up non-Americans on a helicopter-mounted rope ladder while flying off into the sunset. That stuff is just overall very endearing and I think totally works in this game's favor. So that stuff's fine, but how does the game actually play? Well, first of all, each of these characters is, it's a separate character from its own movie, and they each have their own set of moves. Just about everyone has a default shoot on the right trigger, a melee attack on, I think, Y, and a special, which is essentially like a grenade. You can only use a few of them. Now, some characters like, say, Mr. Anderbro, have a slightly different moveset. Maybe they're melee-focused, but in general, it all boils down to having a few very basic attacks. Now, for the most part, each character feels and plays quite different, though there is some overlap with the characters that shoot. They do a pretty decent job, though, of capturing the actual feel of the characters from the movies, and you will be playing loads of different characters. You don't just select somebody and leave it there. No. When you die in this game, you respawn as another character, I suppose from a random pool of the ones that you've unlocked. This is a really nice touch that actually helps to keep the gameplay interesting, and it keeps things shaked up, which is great. Some of the characters do have some nice extra touches. For an example, Indiana Jones has a sort of a regular melee attack and then a weak-ish range attack with his whip, but his gun does crazy damage in return for having hardly any ammo, which is a nice little nod to how he uses his gun in the movies, and you can also whip around and sort of basically grapple with his whip. And perhaps if you're playing as Brobocop, your special is that you target loads of guys and then shoot them all at once, kind of like some of the stuff from the movies. The characters definitely, for the most part, do a solid job of nailing their intended flavor, which is really good. Now, of course, those characters would be useless if the level design was shit, and I'm happy to say that the game's level design is actually quite solid, but really what makes them work is the level of chaos that's involved. Nearly all of the terrain is destructible, and areas are littered with explosive barrels, propane tanks, and just various things which will cause death and destruction. You can set off some really gratifying chains of just explosions and the like, which take out massive areas of the level and kill anyone who is standing around them. And when you kill people in this game, there is blood everywhere, there's jibs everywhere. It feels really good, really visceral, which is absolutely necessary in a game like this. So overall, this just element of chaos feels fantastic, and it nails the feeling of immense power that these characters would actually remind you of. The actual enemies themselves, though, are mostly generic terrorist characters who are movie-style cannon fodder. There are three main types of enemies. You've got the sort of guys who just stand about, they fire off the odd shot, don't do that much really. You've got suicide bombers and then big guys with chain guns. You carve your way through the first types of enemies, but the suicide bombers have the nice little perk of blowing everything the fuck up and setting off massive chain reactions which blow up big swathes of the level, and overall it's just very cool, very hectic. The chain gunners are slightly harder, but none of these enemies really pose much of a challenge. Now that said, everything from, the gunshots, the suicide bombs, rockets, or even a falling rock will kill you in one shot. You die super easy in this game. So the fact that you die so quickly combined with the level of chaos means you die a lot in this game, which for the most part is fine. You start off every level with one life, but you can earn more lives by freeing the various bros that you find scattered around the map, similar to how you might actually free the POWs in Metal Slug, or something similar to that anyway. Basically, it's a more fun way of picking up a 1-up. Now when you die, you are set back to your last checkpoint as a new character, so you get slightly different gameplay. I can see some people getting a bit frustrated at how much you die, but in my experience, every death felt fair, and it was always based off my own mistakes, and that absolutely is how it should be. Generally, it didn't feel like I died because the game was pulling some sort of bullshit on me. Now, there are some further enemy types that you can find. There's rocket trucks, which will rain down missiles on you. That's definitely quite cool. And then mech suits, which you can, well, A, get shot by, but B, also get in and do some shooting with. It's decent overall, but I do feel like a bit more variety from the base enemies would be nice. In terms of the levels as well, in some of them, you basically are constantly being bombarded from the air with like mortars and things like that. Now, they're all telegraphed, so you don't get any bullshit deaths from it, but it certainly is a lot better when you are being bombarded because there's more going on within the maps, it's more hectic, and I think that stuff's just a little bit more fun. Essentially, the more stuff they pile on in terms of mechanics and stuff that can explode, the better this game performs. Also, because pretty much everything in the level is destructible, you can just carve your way through parts of the level with your gun. Now sure, that could probably result in you cheesing some things, but it does allow for quite a bit of freedom and creativity in terms of how you approach a lot of the problems that the game throws your way. Finally, the game's bosses have really been quite easy so far. They've got a few pretty cool intros and nice ideas, but they generally fall short. That's as far as I've played anyway. Now, the few that have been a little bit more involved have certainly been a lot of fun, so there definitely is hope for the future levels. That's really the main gameplay of this, though. But there are a few different modes. So first of all, you've got the regular campaign. This is a basic, like a set of zones, which are tied together by a surprisingly nice looking world map that's definitely full of sort of Broforce flavor in terms of the flavor text that you get before you go into, say, a mission. It works quite well. There is a bit of a storyline which has one or two twists. I won't fully spoil them here, it's nothing crazy, but let's just say you may end up protecting the American border from aliens. I'll let you interpret that how you will. Now, normal difficulty is pretty simple, but there's a nice degree of challenge with the harder mode as well. They also have a map maker and community maps, so theoretically there is a lot of potential user-made content to be had in this game. I had a few issues getting the editor to actually work, but the user-made maps were on their campaign browser thingy, and I played a few of them, and they generally were quite fun. After you play a community-made map, it asks you to rate it, and that's done a pretty good job of letting the high-quality maps rise to the top of the online lists. There's also a versus mode. I haven't really been able to grab any of the guys that I live with to actually test it out. There is an online option. For some reason it was disabled for me, which was a bit strange, but overall, from what I've assumed, it seems like it would be fun, if a little imbalanced. Now, on a technical front, I've got no real problems with this, and also its art style looks fantastically crisp on the 4K monitor that I was playing it on. Certainly just lying back, reclining in my chair with a 360 pad on this beautiful 40-inch 4K monitor, it was just a very enjoyable experience, a few hours just disappeared. And that's definitely a sign of a game that's grabbed your attention. And especially the really impressive world map, it was beautifully crisp at 4K. Now, for £7.99, which is what it costs in the UK, I'm fairly happy with what I got. But I've got a feeling this is the type of game that will eventually just be super cheap on a Steam sale. So I don't think there's really much harm in waiting, but if you want to jump into it right now, it's definitely a very fun game, and I certainly have no regrets for spending the money that I did. Anyway, that's been it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to discuss it more, and I'll see you next time.